This is Geometry, section 12.3, Inscribed Angles. So we've already talked about central angles. For example, if I draw in these two radii right here, I call this point A, this point B, the center point C, angle ACB would be considered a central angle. It's just an angle that goes to the center. An inscribed angle, however, is if I take a point on the circle and make an angle with two other points on the circle. Okay, so it's an angle with the vertex on the circle. And the sides go through the circle. Okay, so it's an angle with the vertex on the circle and the sides go through the circle. So it starts on the circle and then the sides go up or across or whatever through the circle. So we'll call that point D. The intercepted arc, just like with a central angle, so this central angle intercepts arc AB, it's just the arc that gets cut out of the circle by the angle. Okay, so it intercepts arc AB. It cuts that arc out of the circle. All right, so we have a theorem about inscribed angles. It says if an angle is inscribed, meaning the vertex is on the circle and it goes through the circle like this, then its measure is half of the measure of its central angle. Okay, so if I drew in this angle right here, AB, angle A, we'll call that C. So if I drew in angle ACB, the measure of angle 1 would equal half the measure of angle ACB, which is also the same as if I said the measure of arc AB, because we know that the arc is measured by the central angle. So these two things are the same. If it said this is 70 degrees out here, or if it said this is 70 degrees in here, those are always going to be the same. So this would be 35 degrees, half of it. All right, so it says find the value of the variables. So this is an inscribed angle. So if we want to find A, we take 150 and we take half of it, divide it by 2. So it's 75. Same thing over here. If this is my inscribed angle, it's going to be half of this arc, which it says is 70. So I divide it by 2 and it's 35. Over here, D is the central angle, so that's going to be equal to the arc, which is 100. So D is going to be 100. C is going to be 100 divided by 2. It's going to be half of it. So C is going to be 50. All right, now going backwards. So now it gives us that the inscribed angle is 90 degrees. I want the arc. Well, if I kind of look at this, this is half the circle. This is 90 degrees. I multiply it by 2. I get 180 degrees for this arc, which makes sense. So if I'm given the inscribed angle, then instead of dividing it by 2, I multiply it by 2 to get the arc. Just go backwards. Same thing if this is 80, I need to multiply it by 2 to figure out the measure of this whole arc. So this whole arc x would be 160. So if this is 160, this piece is 70. To find y, we add up the two pieces we have. 160 plus 70 would give me 230. And then I subtract that from my total to figure out what's left over for y. And that would be 130. This next one, so we know that we've got two congruent chords. So we learned in the last section that if that happens, this arc is the same as this arc. So this is 132. 132 plus 132 gives me 264. If I subtract that from 360 to figure out what's left over for this piece at the top, we get 96. So if this is 96, this is the arc, which means I need to, again, divide it by 2 to find the inscribed angle. So 96 divided by 2 is 48. All right, on the back, if two inscribed angles, so these angles 1 and 2, both those angles are inscribed. If two inscribed angles intercept or cut out the same arc, then those two angles are congruent. So both of these angles are cutting this arc out of the circle. Therefore, those two angles are congruent to each other. So to find the value of the variables, this arc right here, I'll do it in different colors. So this, this angle right here is cutting this arc out of the circle. This angle right here is also cutting that same arc out of the circle. So this angle is the same as this angle. 5x would equal 2x plus 21. I get all the x's on one side. 3x equals 21. I divide by 3, and I get x equals 7. Similarly over here, whoops. So we've got more variables, more things to solve for, but if I look, okay, I've got this inscribed angle, 38 degrees. It's cutting out this arc. So is this angle right here, cutting out this arc, which means this angle is also 38 degrees. So C is 38. Now we've got to find A and B. Well, if I look at the rest of the circle, first of all, I've got this inscribed angle going this way as well. And that's cutting this arc out of the circle. Angle A right here is doing the same thing. It's cutting this arc out of the circle. So A is also 50 degrees. These two match, these two match. So A is 50. And then to find B, well, we know we have a triangle now. So if this is 50, this is 38, this is B. I add up 50 and 38. Gives me 88. I subtract it from the whole triangle, which is 180. I'm left with 92. All right, two more. Letter C, so angle Y is the central angle, which is going to be equal to the measure of the arc. So Y is 92. Angle X is clearly smaller. So if you forget, am I supposed to divide by 2 or multiply by 2 when I have the arc or when I have the angle? Well, if you look at this angle compared to the central angle, this angle is clearly smaller. So we're going to take 92 and divide by 2, and it's going to give us 46. All right, and finally letter D. So let's start up here. Let's start with this angle. We've got that this is 20. It's cutting out this arc, which means this angle would also be 20. Let's see what else we have. We've got, so that arc would be this angle. So this is smaller than the arc that it cuts out, just like this was 46. This is 2 times bigger, it's 92. So if I want to find this arc, I take this inscribed angle and I multiply it by 2. So this piece would be 40. Now I've got almost the complete circle. I've got 160 plus 40, which is 200, plus another 100, which is 300. If I take 360 minus 300, I'm left with 60 degrees right here for this arc. So this is 60 degrees. Now we've got this inscribed angle going this way. So this arc was 40, this angle was 20, half of it. This arc is 60, this angle is half of it, 30. So V is 30. W, same thing. W is also cutting out that 60-degree arc, so W is half of 60 as well, 30. And then to find U, we do the same thing we did with the one up above. 20 plus 30 is 50, and we would subtract that from 180 to find U, which is going to be 130. And that's it.